Hi and welcome to Excel Woman with Tobi, where we equip, empower and encourage you for success in business and life. As usual, I'll be answering your questions today. But just before we go on to our first question, I would like to say a very big thank you for always sending us your questions and suggestions. We're truly grateful, we appreciate them. Keep sending them in. Now, going on to our first question for today. Our first question is from Toyin in Kent, UK. Toyin asks, how much do I need to start a business? Basically, how much capital do I need to start my own business? Toyin, that's a big question, but thank you so much for asking. That question is dependent on so many things. So for example, what kind of business are we talking about? Is it a small business? Is it a home business? Is it a large business? So is it a business where you need loads of equipment, machinery, vehicles? Do you need cars? Or you just need one car? You need just, one piece of machinery. What do you actually need for this business? That will determine, so there's a big difference in, for example, a piece of equipment is a laptop. So there's a big difference between a business where you just need a laptop to operate the business, which is probably a home business or a small business, and an agricultural business where you need large piece of equipment, large piece of machinery. That will determine your capital. Another thing that will determine the capital that you need is, can you actually run this business from home, or do you need to rent a small office space, or do you need to rent a large factory? So your location will also determine how much capital you need. Most home-based businesses don't need to pay anything for basically running their business from home. They already pay their rent or they already pay their mortgage, depending on what part of the world you are located. But if you have to rent a property outside of your home or a space outside of your home, then you would be paying for office space as well, or even factory space if it's a large business. Another thing is that, do you need employees? Is this a one-man business? Is it just you, Toyin? Or would you need employees? If you need to employ one person, if you need to employ 5 people, if you need to employ 10 people, or is it just you? That also determines how much capital you need. Also, what level of staff will these employees be? Do you just need administrative staff, or do you need consultants? You would need to pay consultants a lot more than administrative staff. So these are the things you need to consider in terms of how much capital that you would need. Also, another point is marketing. What kind of marketing methods do you plan to employ for your business? If you're going to be doing billboard advertising or TV advertising or newspaper advertising, you will need a lot more capital than if you would just be using social media or online banner advertising, because online advertising comes up as a lot lower than the big advertising methods, which are newspaper, TV, and billboards. So these are some things that you would need to consider in terms of how much capital you would need for your business. Another thing is, what kind of facilities would you need? For example, I think most businesses would need electricity for the business. The phone, those are the kind of things that you would need to think about. So that brings up the fact that you have to pay bills. So if you're running your business within your home, you already pay these bills. You already use electricity, you already use gas, maybe for heating, you already have a water bill, you already have a phone rate. You might need to obviously spend more money, but you already pay a basic amount in your home. But if you need the extra, or you need to actually pay for an entirely different office space and pay for these facilities, then you would need to spend a lot more. So Toyin, you've been talking about how much capital you need for your business. The amount of capital you need for your business is dependent on quite a number of factors. And the factors that we've talked about today include what kind of office location you need. Is it a physical office location or your home, or do you need to just rent a small space or a large factory space? Again, employees, is this a one-man band, or would you need to employ one person, 3 people, 5 people, 7 people, 10 people? Also, marketing. What kind of marketing are you planning to use? So large media advertisement, which is the TV, billboard, newspaper, or simply use online advertisement, which comes up a lot lower than the big advertising. and equipment. You need large machinery or basically laptops, printers, and lastly, what kind of facilities would you need to pay for? So Toyin, I hope this answers the question and you will be able to decide how much capital you need looking at all these factors that we've mentioned today. And another question from Susan in Lagos, Nigeria. Susan is asking, what's more important for a business startup? Capital, so having capital or having a business idea? I really believe it's having a business idea. A lot of people stop themselves from living their dreams, going for their dreams, going for what they really want, using the excuse of not having enough capital. I know sometimes it's a genuine one, sometimes it's not just an excuse, but I think there are ways around this. You can start small. So let's start with the idea. The idea is much more important to me than the capital because I believe that there are ways around it. But if you have an idea that has come out of you, that is in line with your passion, because I love that. Sometimes it's not in line with your passion. You have a lot going for an idea when it's something that you are passionate about. For me, that is the starting point. And from there, you grow that idea into something that can become a business. So who are you targeting? So, or target audience. What niche area is it? What group of people? That's the target audience. What niche area? So what part of that? So for example, we talked about in one of our episodes, leadership. What area of leadership? Is it spiritual leadership? Is it corporate leadership? So you start with that and then you package those into products and services. So your idea is already becoming something. It has a body, you put flesh in it. That a product or service has been born. Put that on paper. Think in ink. So write it down is what I mean by that. So write that down. Next is you now think, we can now go to the stage of where does the money come from? That gives power to your idea when you've put your plans down. Now, thinking of capital, there's several ways to get capital. I know one of the first ways to think about is a loan. And sometimes people find it difficult to get a loan, which is fine. Have you thought about joint ventures? So basically, somebody else who is not willing to do the heavy lifting of the business, or is willing to put some money down, a financier, an investor, or even some charitable organizations. Some are called business angels, who basically they're putting money into your business just to help you forward. So think about that as well. Depending on what part of the world you're in, and depending on the amount of capital that you need. If it's not such a large capital, is it something that credit cards can help you push forward? Is it something that an overdraft can help you push forward? Again, a lot of us store things in our home that we don't really need. Have you looked around your home for things that you can sell that you don't really need? Have you thought about asking family members and friends that might be willing to invest in your business? Have you got shares that you can use, for this time as capital? So there are various ways. I think that the first thing is to have an idea and to put flesh on your ideas. Make it become a living being. Put flesh on it, put breath in it, and then we can go on to the capital side of things, which I've mentioned a few options. So Susan, we've been answering your question on what's more important in a business startup, idea or capital. I personally vote for idea, because an idea born within you can become anything and everything you want it to be. And then you can look for the capital once that idea has been born. And God always makes a way. Remember to pray about this, So it's very, very important. Sometimes it's the last thing that we mention. Most God makes a way where there seems to be no way a lot of times. I've experienced it and you can experience it too. Our last question for today is from Tammy in Kent, UK. Tammy says, how can I minimize the risk of losing money on a new startup business even after doing thorough research? That's a great question, Tammy. Thank you so much for asking that question. I would say research, and research more. I know you said you've done thorough research, but if it's such a large capital investment business, then do your research. Also, not just theoretical research, but also practical research. When I say practical research, so apart from gathering information online or from various sources, also interview people. Find out who is doing what you want to do or who has done it successfully. Take time out and sit with them. If you don't know them personally, try and read about them. But try and actually find people who you can have a one-to-one with, if possible, who can tell you the ins and outs of this business, where they've made mistakes and how you can avoid those mistakes. So I would say practical research after theoretical research is number one way to minimize risk. The second thing is start small. Can you do a trial? Can you start small? So I'm sure with your business, you might be able to look for a way in terms of your service or product. If it's a product, can it be samples? Can it be, instead of ordering 1,000 samples or 10,000 samples from your manufacturer, can you start with a lower number? If it's a service, can you start with just having that service available to your local neighborhood instead of the whole state? So start small and you can test and see how that works so that you haven't invested too much capital and you don't have too much at risk. So 2 things, Tammy. The first is do practical research in addition to theoretical research. And the second thing is ask people who are on the same journey with you, people who have been successful at it, and people who have already done it. Also start small. Thank you so much, Tammy, for your question again. I hope that helps. Note, it's been me, Tobi Show, answering your questions today on how much capital you need to start a business, what is more important in a business startup, capital or business idea, and lastly, how to minimize risk in a large investment business. I hope I've been able to help you today. Remember to keep sending in your questions and suggestions. We really do love getting them. Also, check out our website. We have loads of resources for you. It's at excelwoman.tv. Until next time, it's been me, Tobi. God bless you.